attend. It will be in our website available to everybody, so it's probably best that you don't have your camera on. So we're recording now. Please mute yourself if you're not asking questions, because otherwise we get a lot of noisy feedback. Be aware that both the slides and the videos we're going to play through during this webinar will be shared with you by email after the event, so don't worry too much about missing something. Be aware that, well, I wanted to explain, because we've never used videos in our webinars. A lot of the practical explanations of how to use the tool need to use real data rather than dummy data, and so you can't do that in live. We had to do it, record it, and then obscure it so that nobody else could see it. We will pause shortly after each segment to take questions, and then again at the end. And you can pop them in the chat at any time you want. Right, so just to acknowledge that this quality improvement program has been made possible by NEL-CCG through their Digital First program. They are the ones who allowed us to start working on this tool. Also Bash Charity, who are funding some evaluation of the tool, and the London Health Data Strategy Pathfinder, which allowed what could have been just a tool to be a whole program of facilitation. And before I go in, we're going to listen to someone I hope you all know, Dr. Osman Bhatti, Chief Clinical Information Officer at NEL-CCG, digital enthusiast is how he describes himself, and GP at St Andrew's Health Centre. So I will stop here for a minute. He couldn't be here with us, so he sent a little recording.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Osman Bhatti. I'm a GP and the IT lead for North East London. I am unable to be with you in person, so I said that I would record this video just to really emphasise the work that's gone behind the Apple tool that CG have worked on as part of one of the Pathfinder bids for London, and it's a really great tool that opens up some resources to try to improve the way that we manage our patients who require childhood immunisations. Not only will it help you stratify those patients who are overdue, but also helps you plan for call and recall, and it's a tool that you can update and run on a regular basis as often as you want, just to try and get the most up-to-date information. So I hope it's a useful event for you and you really find that you can engage and certainly feedback any items of issues that you have, or any improvements or any future developments that you wish to see. And I hope that this is the start of something we can really try to build within North East London to help with patient care.
So I'm very grateful that Dr. Osman Bhatti sent that recording, even though he wanted to be here, but he couldn't be here because obviously he had clinical priorities. So diving in, so we saw that there was a problem. What was the problem? There were worsening childhood immunisation uptakes in London for the last 5 years, and so bad was it that that we lost the measles elimination status in 2019. I'm not saying that this is just NEL, by the way. This is a situation all across London, but obviously it affects us quite importantly. And if that wasn't bad enough, then COVID came, and in East London the MMR timeliness fell from 80% to 76%, and there has been a tiny bit of recovery, but not as much as we would like to see. Of course, this affects inequalities. The uptake has been going to worse, but particularly in deprived areas and for Black and Asian ethnicities, in line with what we've seen with COVID, for example. On top of all this, it's a very complex program to manage. There are so many different vaccinations that you have to get through. So that was the problem. To make And then QoF came. So suddenly QoF had a new vaccination and immunization metrics. And we thought, well, it can only be a good thing to have an incentive for improving childhood vaccination uptake. But it was a bit of a double-edged sword. While we think it's a very good thing that it was introduced, and we think it's a very good thing that timeliness was being looked at for the first time, because in the past it was just like have your 12-month-old babies all had their primary immunizations, for example, whereas now it's not. It's have you had all your babies who are 8 months old have had their primary immunizations? So yes, this is important, timeliness, and clinically important. But the problem is that it looks like they didn't look at London baseline data when they were setting these thresholds, and unfortunately for London, and particularly for NEL, these are really impossible targets. So we look at the data as it would have been if there had been QoF incentives last year. And what you've got in front of you is what came up. So no locality in NEL would have been able to meet the targets, and in fact only 6 practices in the whole of NEL would have got the full points for the first MMR metric. So that's quite shocking, isn't it? So again, I suppose this compounds the problem. So what we saw as the solution was to create an integrated system for call and recall in primary care. We are using it is going to work for both IMMS and System 1, and is going to take into account data through discovery. So the first thing that you need is data entry templates, and that's why we've completely reviewed our children immunization template and made sure that every practice in our localities have got that template, whether that's IMMS or System 1. And thanks to that, you can have accurate real-time data. Sorry. And then comes the APL-Imms tool, which is what we are what we're launching today, which is a call and recall tool that should make your work much easier to carry out. And all this is surrounded by other tools such as training and resources, facilitation, dashboards, which we will be launching hopefully in the summer. Maps that will show hotspots where vaccination is more difficult to accomplish as well, and patient and public engagement. So we're going to be talking to parents to see what kind of messages they would like to receive, what would work for them. And that's it for me for now. I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Milena, who will tell us a bit more about how the tool was developed.
Perfect. Can you hear me and see me?
Yep.
Yes, Milena.
Yeah, thank you. So hi everyone, my name's Milena and I'm an academic GP trainee, usually splitting my time between Jubilee Street practice in Tower Hamlets and the CEG in the Wolfson Institute of Population Health at Queen Mary's. So today I'll just be briefly talking about what the tool exactly does, some of the rationale behind its development, as well as a small insight into the development process. Next slide, please. So what is the APL-Imms tool? In a nutshell, it's a piece of digital software that plugs into IMMS and allows you to identify children at highest risk of delayed vaccination in your practice. It is actually an Excel file using VBA macros to process an imported IMMS search output and then visualize the results with risk stratification. It's intended to help practice staff involved in call and recall for routine childhood immunisations, and it provides a simple visual that helps the user work out who needs to be called in first for an appointment so that they're not late for their routine childhood immunisations. Next slide, please. So some users might ask about how this is any different from IMMS alerts that come up in the patient's records, alerting the user that a patient is overdue a vaccination. Well, I say from personal experience, and I'm sure this is something you'll all share, the way IMMS is set up, there are lots of different ways to code the same thing, and the alerts that come up don't always match what the patient needs. This software provides a much more up-to-date and accurate way to classify a child's vaccination status. Also, the alerts that come up on IMMS are there for opportunistic action, but the tool aims to encourage proactive management of child's routine immunisation schedules. In the first 5 years of a child's life, children are offered 17 different vaccines on 9 different occasions through primary care. And if they don't have them at the right time, their personal schedule gets really out of sync. So to use a clinical example, for example, if the hexa, the first one, is given at 9 weeks instead of 8 weeks, the second hexa then has to be given at 13 weeks instead of 12 weeks. And practices have told us that this sort of lack of synchronicity is very difficult to manage. And so the APL-Imms call and recall tool aims to make this simpler for practices. And we know that these sorts of tools have previously worked in the past. The APL-IF tool for managing anticoagulation in East London has been evaluated and found to improve anticoagulant prescribing significantly. The general principle of the APL tools is to allow you to export raw data from a clinical system and churn it into a macro and a VBA-enabled Excel file to allow filtering. And so we thought that this would work for chartered immunisations as well. Next slide, please. So then how was it developed and how did we come about designing it? So I came into the process once the initial tool concept had been designed and presented across North East London. So I came in right at the point of designing the tool's logistical aspects. So we looked through every single EMIS code used for childhood vaccination and created a search that encapsulated this, whilst also referencing the CEG's recommended code sets for childhood immunisations. This process involved trawling through all of the Green Book chapters and the patient group directions for each vaccination to advise our software developers and data analysts so that then they could create rules for all possible situations, such as when a child starts their immunisation schedule several months later than planned, or if they are vaccinated in a foreign country. The whole development process was made up of a collaboration between CEG's developers, data scientists, facilitators and GPs, and a focus group of North East London practice managers and practice nurses. So we were looking for feedback about usability, aesthetics and particular functions of the tool. As a result, we added Hep B at risk and safeguarding alerts from this focus group feedback. We then had the tool externally tested by these users once we had developed our final version, and we worked through any bugs that came up. This testing happened in Tower Hamlets, Newham, Waltham Forest and Redbridge. And after a year and a half, the tool was then finally ready for release. So that's it, a simple Cliff Notes version. If you've got any questions, obviously, please do put them through into the chat or at the end of the presentation. Thanks.
Okay, so we're going to dive in on how to use the tool. I'm hoping that most of you have requested the tool already, but if you haven't, we've put the link at the beginning of the chat. So just click on there and you will be able to request the download immediately. And now we will proceed with how to use the tool. Anna?
The first step is to open up your EMIS and click on Population Reporting. You will see a whole series of folders under the name of your surgery. Select the folder where you do or you intend to do your childhood immunisation work. Once selected, click the Import Population Reporting. You will see a whole series of folders under the name of your surgery. Select the folder where you do or you intend to do your childhood immunisation work. Once selected, click the Import button, which is located on the top ribbon. This will open up a dialog box. Click on the 3 dots to the right of the inquiry document box. Then find the XML file, select it, and click Open, and then OK. You can see that it has created a folder called the APL-Imms and contains a search and a report. The search has a magnifying glass symbol, whereas the report has a grid or table symbol. It is the output of the report that is required to feed the APL tool. And now, if you select this new APL-Imms folder, you can click Run in any of 2 ways. You can click Run on the top ribbon, or you can right-click on the search and select Run. You will know that EMIS has finished running the search when a number appears on the line that has the table symbol in front of it. You now need to export the output of this report into a CSV file, which the Excel APL tool will read. Click on the report and view results. Don't be tempted to click Export Result at this stage. It will not work. When you click View, a new screen pops up where you can see a populated table of patients. It is now that you can click the export button. Select the CSV format and click on the last box. Now click OK and select a location for the output. Select a folder and then click Save. Bear in mind, these are exports containing patient identifiable data, so please do save them in an appropriate place. Depending on the population size of your practice, this could take a minute or so probably. So once we've done this, we can close this report view. At this point, you might want to check that you have saved the CSV file where you intended to, so that you can find it when you need to import it into the tool. And that's that. You've completed the EMIS element of using the APL tool, so you can log off EMIS.
Any questions so far?
No, Anna, no questions so far.
Okay, so we'll proceed to the second one, to the next one. Oops, we haven't got the next video.
Sorry, it's on its way.
Okay, it's taking time to load, is it?
The first step is to open up the APL-Imms tool, which is in fact an Excel file. Simply just double-click the file. You will probably get a message saying you are in protected view and to be careful. Just click the button at the end of the warning that says Enable Editing. You could then get another message saying, Security warning, external data connections have been disabled. You should click the button at the end that says Enable Content. This is the main page of the tool. The first step of populating the APL-Imms tool with the data is to locate the CSV search output file that we generated in tutorial 2. If you are using old data by mistake, at this point the tool will tell you and you should go back, run the search on EMIS and export it before proceeding. But most likely the tool will tell you that it's happy, it has no problems, and so you can press the close button and then click the start button, which is the one that will churn and manipulate the raw data. Depending on your practice size, this could take a few seconds to a minute or so. So now we have populated the tool. Let's have a closer look at the front page of the tool. You can see that it's made up of 4 main features. A filter panel with various features you can focus on, a table containing explanations of the different warnings or flags you can get, a colour-coded legend for the different flags that appear on the patient list, and underneath this is the list of actual patients. Here, I'm using pseudo-anonymised data that was randomly selected from a CCG, and to which we added randomly generated names. I'm now going to illustrate the filter function. One of the most important features when using the filter section is the filtered patient count. This changes according to filter selected. So let's see the patients we have that are over 4 weeks overdue of vaccination. You can see that the count has dropped. Now see what happens when you add in an MMR filter. And these are additive filters. If I add a third filter, the total number of patients demonstrated gets even smaller. Not all filters behave in the same way. That is, not all of the filters are additive. The age filters are exclusive. But please do keep an eye on your filter patient numbers to make sure that the selections you make are in line with what you're trying to make the filters do. Now let us look at one more feature of the APL-Imms tool, the patient info page. So when you click on a patient name, the APL-Imms tool will take you to a summary page for that patient. The summary page captures all the relevant information for that particular patient. It also uses a coloured flag system, which will help to give rapid visual feedback on the vaccination status of the patient. The date recorded and the child's age at event is also recorded.
On the right-hand side, there is a list of quick links to information, including vaccine schedules and ingredients, foreign vaccination schedules, and to support your conversations with parents.
If you need to return to the main page, you can click the back button located on top of the useful links.
Do we have any questions so far?
No, still no questions so far in the chat. If you do have a question, please use the hand raise button and then we can do voice ones.
But there will be plenty of time later on anyway, so okay. We'll proceed then, Anna. Oh, sorry, I can see that Mohammed has got a question. No? No, Mohammed?
Yeah, give me 2 seconds, Anna, and I'll just allow the microphones.
Right, okay. Have we got a question there?
I have allowed the microphone, so hopefully.
Mohammed? No? Okay, that's fine. It was just okay, no problem. There will be plenty of time at the end, so we'll move on to the next one.
So firstly, open the tool. In this fictitious list of patients that we're using for demonstration purposes, let's say, for example, that you want a list of all the children of any age who are due a vaccination this week. After watching our tutorial number 3, you already know how to use the filters of the tool. Now, you'd like to share this list with a member of your team, and you're probably thinking, how am I going to do this? Well, there are several things you can do. One of the things you could do is just print straight from here. It's not the most sophisticated option, but you can just do that because it's very quick. So go to print. And just make sure you change the settings, because otherwise you are going to have a very strange printout that's not going to be useful. So for example, we can see here that we need landscape orientation and to scale it properly so that all the columns fit in one page. Click print and you are done. The second option is still quite quick and a bit more sophisticated. You can export to an Excel sheet that you can annotate and share with your colleagues or keep for future reference. Use this button to export to Excel. Make sure you save it somewhere safe because it's patient identifiable information. As you can see, it is recording the date and time in the file name. But if you want to, you could change the file name to something else that means something to you. For example, children due an immunisation the week of 21st of January. So let's see what that export looks like. You have the list and you can write on it. You may want to write an instruction to a colleague, or that you have called the parents and cannot connect, or that they are away on holiday, etc. Once you are done, save it and tell a colleague where they can find it. And now for our favourite option. You can export this as a list of NHS numbers in a format that is called text. What is good about this format is that it can be re-imported into Imms as something similar to a search. So let's see how it works. First, we're going to save this file in the appropriate folder, which is the text outputs. It doesn't matter what you call it really, as long as you can find it later. Log into Imms to import the file with a list of NHS numbers. So I've selected my demo folder. In your case, it would probably be something like your childhood immunisations folder. Now go to the top ribbon to add patient. And instead of going to patient search, as you usually do, go to patient list. I'm going to call this list of patients SMS to send the week beginning of 23rd of January. Here's the button to import. Locate the text file and it's imported. Press OK Done. It looks like the search icon, except that it has a different symbol. Instead of a magnifying glass, you have a patient icon. Now, thinking about it, I don't just want the children who are due this week. I also want those who are overdue by just 1 week. So I'm going to add another file here. I'm going to edit this and do exactly as before. Click Import. But this time, I'm going to import the other text file. You can join as many text files as you want together into one single patient list. And it's imported, and I've got both groups here together in the same list. What I'm going to do now is create a child search that is going to exclude all those children who already have an appointment, because what I need is a list of those who have not got an appointment booked in the next week. So just as usual, add a patient search. The parent is the patient list. Give it a name, such as no appointment booked within a week. We are going to add a rule, which is an appointment rule based on appointment date. And we want to look at appointments after today or before or on 1 week, which is going to be 7 days after the search date. You can check here if I got it right. After the 21st and before or on the 28th. If they've got an appointment, I don't need to do anything. What I want is the ones who have not got an appointment, which is why I'm going to change this rule to exclude. I'm only going to include in my final list those who fail this rule. It turns out I have 27 children, due this week or overdue by 1 week, who are not booked in for next week.
Do you have any questions?
I have none in the chat.
I can see a hand raised. I'm not sure who. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Fahad? Go ahead. Fahad? Do you want to ask your question?
I can see their mic is on, but I'm not sure if it's coming through.
Hi,
Okay.
it's, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Sabina. It looks fantastic. Obviously, we're not going to know until we've actually put it in place. So, how often? Because obviously, we're always registering patients. Patients are leaving. So, how often would you advise that we run the searches?
We are recommending to do it weekly, once a week.
So once a week we run the searches and
Yeah.
it populates everything then, yeah?
That's right. So you don't have to keep the data. You always want to work with fresh data. So, for example, once you finish your, let's say that you've got a baby clinic every week on a Wednesday. When you finish your baby clinic, run the and you've recorded all the vaccinations given, then you run the tool. That's what we recommend.
And when we had the you brought up the search and you were entering data. So when you close it, does that save that data?
So we say that again.
So towards the right hand side, the lady was entering data for her colleague. Then when you enter data, when you save it, does that save that data?
Yes, that's right, because that's not the tool. That's an export of a
tool.
selection. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. It's looking good.
Thank you.
I just have two in the chat. I've got the one from Farhad. How do you know it's a child IMS appointment? You would need to change the search to the appointment type.
You could do that. That's going to depend on how your practice is set up. So every practice will have a slightly different way of doing things.
Lovely, thank you. And I believe that's the same question that Ellie Jacobs has as well. It's just asking about differentiating between the nurses' appointments and the GP appointments.
We can give you a little bit of more guidance on that if you want, if that would be helpful. As in a sort of one page, I would be quite happy to do that. Anything else? No. We're going to put just the last one. It's very short. Anna?
We have already populated our IMMS tool with the file that we imported from EMIS, and we have got all our patients here, dummy patients of course, and I want to send a text message to all children who are 1 week overdue. First of all, I click on this filter. Now, I'm going to export this list into a list of NHS numbers, which is a text file which I can import into EMIS population reporting to create a patient list. Back in EMIS, I'm going to select a folder and add a patient list. I will call it Overdue 1 Week, Send Text. And then I'm going to import the text file that I created from the tool. Now that I have a patient list, I need to create a report that will be recognised by AccurRx. Instead of creating one from scratch, I'm going to reuse the one I use for COVID all the time. I find it, select it, copy, go back to my folder, paste. I need to link the patient list with the report, so I click on Properties. Then on the browser following Reports From, locate the patient list I have just created and click OK. And that's it. They are now linked. All I have to do is run, view results, and export into a CSV file, excluding the report header. You can now go to AccurRx, click on Invite List of Patients, and import this last CSV file you have created.
And that is it. We've kind of given you a very, very quick tour of how the tool works, how to use it. You've got all the instruction. You will have access to all these videos. We will send you the link, and you also have a manual, an instruction manual for the tool